My name's Scott Johnson. I'm a registered architect and structural engineer in California, and I've worked both on the design side of the industry as well as the jurisdictional side of the industry for a total of about 24 years at this point. Um, so first of all, let's talk about just our typical process that we go through whenever we're going through the design process as it relates to building codes. So first, we'll often begin our code research. We'll look for local requirements, for state amendments, this type of thing. And then as we go through the process, we'll find and then we'll start applying those specific code requirements to the project that we're designing. And then after that, inevitably there comes changes into the program. Could be something from our client, possibly things like adding a story, or it could be any number of things. And then also we end up receiving, hopefully not, but usually we'll end up receiving plan check comments from the city. And then that sends us back to the beginning and we start again doing more code research. So first of all, what are the code calculators specifically? So they will help you determine up to 15 different code requirements. They'll help you create and export a code sheet to a format that you can use, as well as you can be able to see some calculation explainers that will help you understand how the calculations were done. And another thing that the code calculators are is they're also integrated with state and some local amendments. For example, we have state-specific occupancy groups. Like in California, they have I-2.1 occupancy group. We have that available. We have mass timber requirements available if they've been adopted by that particular state or local jurisdiction. And then we also have things like occupant load factors. And also we have the plumbing ratios as they were amended. So what you can do also is you can be able to see how different changes that you make in your input will affect the output in a very quick way. For example, if you're calculating heights and areas, if you change the building from a fire separated occupancy to a non-separated occupancy, you can see how that affects the calculations. Also, let's say if you wanted to add a higher occupancy, higher hazard group, like on an upper floor, you could see if that might be allowed or not. You could add a horizontal podium separation. And also do things like increase the occupant load factors, change the areas, and see how that affects your egress and plumbing fixture counts. There's also fire ratings, calculations, and as you change the type of construction, you can see how those ratings will change, among other things. And then it also makes it easy to assess how various changes will affect the whole project. So for example, you could easily add a story, you could add mezzanines, you could look at other types of construction easily. And as you go through the process, you'll also see non-compliant conditions shown to you so that you can make corrections at an early stage. So in short, the code calculators will optimize your process. And the idea is to reduce or eliminate this cycle of always having to go back to the code and reduce the lengths of time that you're having to spend doing this code analysis and research. So we're going to go and we're going to build an example project. We're going to do a 5-story apartment building, and it's going to have retail and parking on its first floor. It's an urban lot, and we know that the owner prefers wood construction over steel or concrete, and but they will consider a podium building. So let's start off. Let's go to the site. And what you want to do, if you want to follow along, you're welcome to. we'll go to projects. So you can get that over here on the left. Just click on projects. And from projects, we will create a new project here. So let's create it in the 2019 California Building Code. Call it apartment building and create the project. So to start out, we're going to go to our project inputs. So over on the left's a nav bar, you can go there. And we're going to start out, we'll put in our 5 stories. So just a little orientation here. This bar, blue bar across the top here, corresponds to these fields for spaces and building area. You can add stories by clicking this area here. And so we'll go ahead and we'll add 5 stories. And we'll go through, and they're stacked on top of each other, just like a building might be. So we'll go through here and we'll start filling out our information. So we will go and call for this first floor, first story, go put in our retail, and we'll put in the parking garage, and we'll select the occupancy group for each of these. Now, if by some chance you need to have a little assistance figuring out what that occupancy might be, you could click on occupancy guide, and it will bring up this box here, and you answer a series of questions, and it will take you through this and be able to help you find out what the occupancy group is quite likely. So we'll continue filling this out here. For our retail, we got mercantile. And this function of space drop down here, these are all the ones from chapter 10. And these will help set the occupant load factors for the egress calculation. And then these boxes here, we'll put in the gross area. And if you happen to have a function of use that is based on net area, then this other box will become available to you, and you can put in a net area, like for an assembly space, for example. We're going to add a few exits here to this ground floor. Let's do retail exit, parking exit, and let's do a lobby exit. And I'm going to add a lobby. And we'll make that an A3. So you can see the assembly space. I'll just pick that. And we'll call it 1,000 square feet, but we'll just say that it's only 900 square feet net. And what we'll do here is we'll start linking these things together. So actually, let's also add a corridor. So we'll put a corridor here. And we'll put the corridor to go to the lobby exit. I'm going to actually give a corridor itself an exit. So we got that, we got corridor, and then we're going to link these spaces together. So the retail will go to the lobby and its own exit. The parking garage will go also to the lobby, but instead we'll go to the parking. And the lobby will go out of its own exit, and we'll link it to the corridor as well. So that's our first floor as we've set that up. We'll go up to the second floor, and we will put in our story height. And I'm going to put in units. These are going to be apartment units. So instead of entering every single unit in, I would recommend entering things in blocks. For example, I'm going to do 2 sides of a corridor here. And I'll give these the occupancy group R2. And we'll call it residential. And we'll give it a gross square feet. Now, if you wanted to say we'll add a corridor here, And with items that are gross square feet, you want to always make sure that you include corridors and stairways in your allowable area up here at the top, because this is where you put in your building areas up here. So if we wanted to add the corridor in, we could include it in one of these these spaces here, or we could create its own here by itself. And so that we can make sure and we account for that. Now, if for some reason you wanted to zero out the occupant load for one of these spaces, like let's say a stairwell, or if you had a lobby in here or something like that, or for some reason you have an agreement with the building official that you don't have to count the occupant load there, you could put in a custom number here for occupant load and put in whatever you like. If you decide that you don't want to do that, just click on reset and it'll put it back to where it was. So we're not going to have an exit here. We're going to have 2 stairways. So the calculators will calculate stairway widths for you. So we'll add those in. And if you have some information that is missing, that's mandatory for us to be able to input, you'll get these red alerts that are like this. And so you want to make sure and clear out any of these things that are red, or else it won't save the information as you go forward. So, but as we go um, and connect these up to spaces here, the exiting, it'll go away. And if you don't know the exit path, if you're early in the project, you could just leave it all as going to a single unnamed exit, and that would be totally fine. It just wouldn't be a valid egress calculation. That's all. So we could, here's our second story. Now, instead of going and repeating this, entering all this again and again, we can use the repeat story function here, and we could add that in. We can repeat it 4 times, and then we'll just go up here and remove these others if we like. So if by chance you wanted to insert a story in here, so you could actually go between stories, you could add a story right there and it will insert it between those, like in this case, the second and the first story. This becomes the new second story and everything above it moves up. So I'm going to remove that. So we'll keep going forward. So we have 5 stories now, and then we're going to put in the average roof height. So let's put in 63. This particular question, so sometimes we'll ask you questions and they have to do with the specific state or city that you're in. So in this case, this question is a California specific question. So it might affect the height and area calculation in this case. So I'm going to answer that no, it's not state owned. We are going to say it's not fully separate, fire separated. We're going to use, let's say, type 5A construction, and we'll see if that will work. And choose the sprinkler type, 13A. And as you go through here and you choose certain things, there might be other questions that pop up. So let's go back up here. And this is a California specific question about you have to choose whether it's a height or the area increase, because we have a specific occupancy group in California that's will only allow one or the other. And in this case, it's the R2 occupancy group that's triggering that. And the fact that we have NFPA 13 sprinklers. So we will pick area increase, and then we'll go out and fill out the rest of this. You can enter in the site and perimeter information. So we're going to enter in the information for the footprint of the building. So I will show that it's 200 feet along one side, that it fronts a public way. And then I'm going to put in some of the dimensions of the public way here. We'll go through and we'll add a few more information. And if you don't know the information or just don't want to spend the time doing this, you could actually leave this table blank and not enter anything in. And what that will do is that will basically zero out any increase you might get from the perimeter around the building, giving you a allowable area increase. But we'll go ahead and enter something in here and you'll be able to see that. Okay, let's actually make this 20 feet. Okay, so you'll go through here and you answer a few more questions. Now, these questions specifically have to do with height and area. In this case, it's checking whether it might be an unlimited area building. Over on the left, you'll see that there's 4 different areas that we'll calculate different things for. Other questions will show up for these different 4 other areas. So again, they're just, most of them are quick yes or no questions. And we'll fill this out. Open parking garage. And let's go here and let's go see our building. And as we go to the results, you'll be able to see that whatever we have enough information to calculate, it will provide that. So in this case, we can see the minimum stairway width, and then there's some more things below, but let's focus right now up here at the top for the height and areas. So you'll see these red fields, and what that means is a non-compliant condition, and that we need to change something in our input for it to be compliant. If you wanted to go find out more about it, you could click on C calculation, and it will bring up the explainer to be able to show which items are compliant, which are not. And so in this case, we know that our building height is not working for us. So let's go back, let's click on edit inputs, and let's do something here. Let's add a horizontal building separation to see if that's going to help us. So if I click between the stories, there's something that says add horizontal building separation. I click on that, and then we'll fill out what the type of construction is below the separation, which in this case, the building code requires that it has to be type 1A, and you have to have a type 13 sprinkler system. So we'll choose that. Make sure there's all the questions have been answered here. And we'll go back and take a look. And we'll see that, okay, now the building area doesn't seem to work. And we'll see what's going on here. And I believe what happened is I might have changed the area increase from the height. So let's go there and see what's going on. So, and then one thing you can also do is that you can go into the type of construction guide. So if we go to the type of construction dropdown, we'll see here that there's a construction type guide. So if we click on that, it's going to show us the various what's going to work for our particular set of inputs. And in this case, it's saying that type 4B would work. We could choose that and be able to get a compliant building. So I'm going to switch over now. I'm going to show you a completed project. That's the same construction type. So if we see here, I wanted to point out a few other things. Here we have, you can be able to put mezzanines in. And as we have mezzanines, you can associate those with other spaces. And if you wanted to change what those particular spaces are associated with, you just click on these little 5 arrows and you can drag it down. And then you'll be able to see sometimes, especially with mezzanines, it's going to check to see if you meet the area requirements, whether it's 1/3, or in this case, because it's residential with type 13 sprinklers, if it's 1/2 of the area it's associated with. I'm going to put that back, and that's exactly 1/2 of the area of this unit south. So if we go through here, let's go back over to the code calculators. we'll be able to see that in this case, we have a compliant construction, and we have the information that's broken out for the areas below the horizontal separation and the areas above the horizontal separation as well. So there's all sorts of different kinds of calculators, minimum exits per story, gives you exit travel distances, corridor widths based on your occupant loads. It'll tell you what different fire ratings you might need for the interior building element fire resistance rating, for example. This will be able to let you know also required occupancy separations that you might need, and then also some plumbing calculations. Now, let's say we have a developer who he wants to go and build the same building in Houston. So there's a way that we can accommodate that very quickly. So we can take an old project we've already filled out and done. And if we go to settings, and we click on duplicate, we'll be able to change that to a different jurisdiction, to a different year, if we wanted to. So let's go down to Texas. Let's pick Houston and 2022 codes, and then we will duplicate that. It'll convert the project. So if we go to the project, and then we go to the inputs, we'll actually be able to see that and where this is coming from, we'll see some yellow stuff here. And what that is, it's an advisory, because Houston is based on the 2015 codes, and we designed the building under a code that had adopted the 2018 codes. So, yeah, 2018 codes. So in this case, the mezzanine is still limited to 1/3 of the total space, the total area it's attached to, not the 1/2 limit for residential. So if you have a compliance problem or situation that shows up in a new jurisdiction, this will flag those for you. Now the yellow ones will allow you to leave that there if you like. If it turns red, it's something you need to change right away. So, and then we go to the code calculators output. We'll be able to see that as well, and then we'll be able to see that this is Houston. And something else that you can do, if you wanted to be able to export this to a an Excel spreadsheet, you'll be able to see in Excel all this information here that was generated. So now it's just really honestly a few clicks of some buttons. We've generated an entire code sheet that is compliant with the Houston building codes.